Starting off here, we have Mark Schlaball. First question for you.
Hey, Dan, I know you guys don't care much about what outsiders say, but a lot of people were talking about your defense being historically good before the Alabama game. What have you got to do to kind of cement its reputation the second time around?
I just play the brand of football we're able to play. You know, our guys take a tremendous amount of pride in the way we work and the work we put into this season, but it doesn't take anything exceptional or extraordinary. Just do what we know how to do.
Next will be Chip Towers. Chip.
Hey, Coach. You dealt with this some at the Orange Bowl, but obviously the no sacks against Alabama last time, and a lot of the narrative was that Georgia didn't try to pressure the quarterback that much. But yeah, I certainly don't look at it as educated as you do, but it looked like that you guys were really trying some stuff to get to him and just couldn't get to him. So obviously, how important is it to get pressure on Bryce Young this time? And what about the whole factor of, you know, it's just a month later. Do you do a lot of different things, or do you try to do the same things better?
Yeah, you know, ultimately we want to create pressure. We want to go get after Bryce. As far as how we're going to do it, I don't want to give away all our secrets yet, Chip. I mean, hopefully we can wait till after the game to figure that out. But, yeah, we want to generate pressure, and certainly there's a lot of different ways you can do that. He's really good at avoiding the rush, and they did some unique things to protect him. So we have to attack it a little bit differently, but, you know, how we do that, there's a lot of different ways we can do it.
Next, we'll hear from Ralph Russo. Ralph.
Good morning, Dan. I'm interested when you've been a fair amount of different places, small school guy, as far as football yourself. When you're at Alabama for a year and now at Georgia, it's going to sound silly, like how much do you notice how much better the players are? But when you get to a place like Georgia and you've been other places, what is sort of that moment of like, oh my, like this looks different from some of the other places I've been? Obviously, you know that going in, but when you actually see it and are part of it, does it sort of hit you in a way that's a little different when you get there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference. There's a big difference. And I mean, ultimately, I think one of the biggest things that's different, especially in our league and playing against a team like Alabama's, in the trenches, you know, up front with the defensive line and offensive line, but the speed on the field, you know, it's all relative because every football field's 100 yards, right? But the size and the speed is a tremendous difference.
Next will be Mark Weiser. Mark.
Hey, Dan. Nolan Smith was on here earlier.
Kind of shared how emotional he got losing to Alabama in the SEC championship game. Is that the player, you know, that pours a lot into what he does? And, you know, at the outside linebacker position, this is a little kind of a second question. What are you leaving behind when you go to Oregon in terms of guys that are up and coming that you expect can take a next step?
Yeah, I mean, Nolan's an emotional guy, but, you know, that's one of his greatest strengths. He takes so much pride in what he does. He cares so much. And I think that's one of the things that made us unique this year is how many guys on our defense and on our team that care. And, you know, obviously you want people on your team that care. Yeah, I'm excited about what that room will look like going forward. Probably not for the first game next year, but they've got some good guys in there, you know, Chaz Chambliss. You know, Nolan, I think, has got a great opportunity to make a decision on what he wants to do going forward. You know, MJ Sherman, you know, and there's some young talent that's getting brought in there as well. I know, you know, Rob Beal has a decision to make as well. So some of these guys have tough decisions to make. I know that's not their focus right now. And then we signed some, you know, young talent in that room also. So it'll be a good room.
Next will be Mike Rodak. Mike.
Just how do you go about preparing for Alabama's wide receivers, the younger guys who don't have a lot of film on them, and just how did you adjust your defense when John Mechie was injured in that last game?
Yeah, I mean, they have talent at wideout. Just, you know, even losing Mechie, those other guys that have come in have shown that they're obviously really capable and successful players, but it does change your plan. You'll have to do some things differently. I know we've brought a lot of speed over, you know, from the offense. at times we're able to use guys during certain periods to extend the field and push it down the field. And we're getting a really good look from our look team because we're able to use those guys. So ultimately it doesn't change everything that you do when they have different people plug and play, but there's an awareness on where certain guys line up and what they do when they line up there.
All right, next we'll hear from Zach Klein. Zach? You got Zach there?
There we go. Just waiting to get unmuted. Thanks, Brett. Dan, Nakobe Dean told me that you were the first ever coach to see him when he was in high school and you were in Memphis. He said that you told him you just want to put eyes on him, probably not going to get you here, but might get you down the road. What do you remember from that first meeting with Nakobe?
Yeah, Nakobe. Sorry, was there more to that question, Zach? Yeah. Ultimately, I was at Memphis at the time when I first learned about Nakobe Dean. He had a great head coach, Brad Boyette, who, I was a big fan of and that was my area, recruiting Mississippi when I was at Memphis. So got to go down there and see him. And everybody talked about what kind of player he was, and that was evident on his film. He actually kind of played the star position, outside backer spot as a freshman, played really early. But what was impressive was all the things off the field for Nakobe, his academic standing, the leader he was in his community. This guy did homework nonstop. When you talk to him in recruiting, he'd be, "Hey, coach, I appreciate it, but I got to get off the phone. I got to get back to homework." So he's just his work ethic, and he's a great example of the way you do anything is the way you do everything. Nakobe really lives by that standard. It's the same way he gives off the field, the same way he is in the classroom is the same way he is on the field. So I have a lot of fond memories of growing, of recruiting Nakobe and then now having him as a player, and was excited to get to Georgia where we had a chance to get him.
All right, next we'll hear from Steve Crone. Steve?
Yeah, Coach, you don't have to worry about going against Brock Bowers for another 9 months anyway, but as a defensive coordinator, when a team has a tight end as good as Brock Bowers, what does that do to your mindset and to your scheme heading into that game?
Yeah, Brock's a headache for the other team. I'm glad he's on our team. In a lot of ways, Brock's like having another wideout out there on the field, obviously, and he's extremely talented, does a great job catching the ball in tough situations. I think he's developed a great amount of trust, with Stetson and in the offense, and he's really done, Coach Munkin's done a phenomenal job of moving him around and using him in a lot of unique ways. So you definitely have to treat him different. You can't treat him like your standard tight end.
Thank you.
Next we'll hear from Michael Casagrande. Michael, you're up.
Yeah, Dan, we hear a lot about Kirby Smart and his ultra competitive side. What memories do you have of him? Anything behind the scenes that you could tell us about what he's like as a competitor in practices or in games?
It doesn't matter what it is for Coach Smart. I love his passion, and I've always said that I think your players take on the energy that you put out as a coach. And Coach Smart has tremendous passion, whether it be team run on a Tuesday in practice or if it's Saturday out there on game day. He brings it every single day. There's never been a day that I walked off the field and been like, well, Coach wasn't really out there. No, that's never happened. And you see the same thing around his family, whether he's playing basketball with his son or whatever it is, the guy just likes to win. And that resonates through our program. And he prepares to win. It's not something where you just roll the ball out and think you're going to show up. He's willing to do the work it takes to be successful. So I think he realizes that, when you compete, it's not just you compete on game day. You have to compete in the way you practice. You have to compete in the way you prepare, the way you analyze data and results. And you see that constantly from Coach Smart. That's something certainly that I've learned being here. But he wears it on his sleeve every day, and I appreciate that.
Next up is Maria Martin. Maria?
Hey, Dan, going back to Nakobe Dean for a second, we've seen him get recognized for what he's been able to do on the field this year. And, it seems like every Saturday or Friday, for that matter, that he's playing, he shows up. What have you seen in the evolution of him as a player throughout the season?
Yeah, I think, he's attacked a lot of the things that we thought he could get better at. Coach Schumann does a phenomenal job with that linebacker room, not just Nakobe, but, Channing, Quay Walker. These guys have played at a really high level all year. But, Nakobe's really improved in his coverage ability. In my mind, he's really taken pride in being an explosive blitzer, and he's created a lot of havoc plays with that, the way he's played, the physicality that he plays with. This guy tackles in practice. He works really hard in practice to be a good tackler, and I think that's something he's improved in, and you see. But he's just a lot more efficient overall in his movements, and that comes with reps. The more you play, the more successful you're going to be, and I think you see that with him.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll hear from Dennis Dodd. Dennis?
Awkward silence.
Yeah, sorry about that, Coach.
All good. You want me to keep rolling?
Got Dennis Dodd coming up here.
Hey, there you go. Unmute. Dan, is there a position group that traditionally shows more leadership than others? And who are some of the best leaders you've had in your career on that side of the ball?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dennis. Ultimately, I don't think there's one. Leaders, a lot of times you can say you want to identify them as a coach, but the reality is the players identify the leaders on your team. It's who they follow. It's who they see do it. Each week, each day. I've been here before where we were, really led by guys in the back end like J.R. Reed and but it's been every position group that I've been around. I mean, we've had it last year. I think, we had a little more leadership there at the corner position. Right now, you'd say that we're really, have leaders there on the defensive front with linebackers in the D-line. But every year it's a different group. And the reality is the players follow the guys that lead. And I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of really good ones. This team has as good as any that I've ever been around. I think Coach Smart mentioned it earlier, this season, but it's the first time I've ever been a part of a team that we came off after a big win. And our players were in the locker room talking about, hey, what we have to do better, literally right after the game, call the entire team up. And I think that's unique. That's certainly special.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Seth Emerson. Seth, you're up.
Dan, not to relitigate the pass rush strategy against Alabama too much, but it seems like you all had a choice of do what some other teams had done against Alabama to success earlier, or kind of stick with what had worked for you all the first 12 games. Is that too simplistic a way to sum it up, or is that close to what you saw it as?
I don't know. I think we watched film pretty close and try to see what's successful against the team. And I think they had good answers and played better than we played that day. I think we're always been really pretty multiple and have a variety of ways that we can attack teams. I think we've carried that into every game. So if you go back and look at that game, we tried to attack in a lot of different ways and they were more successful than us. I think we'll always you got to have answers, and they had better answers that day than we did, but we'll build off of that.
Next up will be Mike Griffith. Mike, you're up. Ready for Mike Griffith now.
There we go. Yeah, we're the pause is because we have to unmute. We have to wait for them to prompt us, Coach.
Good.
I want to ask about Trayvon Walker and just the defensive end position. It doesn't seem to lend itself to the same sort of sack numbers. And I know everybody kind of plays their spot, but could you share the importance and the responsibility of that end position in Georgia's scheme? And then if you can elaborate just on Trayvon and what's made him so special.
Yeah, ultimately, I think one of the things that makes our defense special is they're willing to accept whatever role it is for that game for us to be successful. And, Trayvon's a great example of that. That being said, what makes Trayvon special is his athleticism. He's got special talent. He's very unique. I think we've all mentioned several times that he was a high school basketball player and really successful, but his ability to move I think you see in that last Michigan game, he's starting to play with another brand of physicality as well, and that's starting to show up. And that ultimately, to me, was one of the pieces of his game that he can improve on, and he's done a great job of that, embracing that challenge of being physical at the point of attack. But he's got speed, he's got the ability to drop in coverage, he's got the ability to rush the passer, and I think the production comes with that over time. But I'll say this, most teams know where he's at, and there's probably something to be said for that as well.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll hear from Connor Riley. Connor Riley will be next.
Hey, Dan, with this being your last game at Georgia, what are you going to miss about coaching at this place, and specifically with this defensive group, what are you going to miss about coaching them?
I mean, ultimately for me, coaching's about relationships, and I love these players like I love my family. They've just been so good to me. I wouldn't be near the coach I've been or had the success I've had in this profession if it wasn't for these players. So I'll miss that a lot. I'm going to miss the coaching staff. There's a great bond on our staff. I really enjoy the guys I get to work with every day, and I don't feel like I go to work. I feel like I'm going to do something I love each day, which is a pleasure. But to me, the people, ultimately, I'll miss the people. I'm certainly excited about new adventures, and really excited about the group of men and caliber of men that we have on our staff and the players. I mean, these players are great kids and super talented. So excited about that situation, but you'll always miss the people you work with and the people that helped you get where you're at now.
All right, next up will be Ralph Russo. Ralph, you're up.
Hey, thanks for letting me ask a follow-up, Brett. Dan, I know you can't move the Atlanta metro area to Eugene, but what can you bring with you from your time at Georgia, philosophy, strategy, maybe apparatus that you can rebuild at your Oregon as far as recruiting is concerned?
Yeah, well, one of the big benefits, obviously, of being at Oregon is it is a national brand. We can go anywhere in the nation and be able to sign players. But I think you can just bring that relentless pursuit that we operate with day in and day out here, and the organization behind it. We can bring the mentality of how we play football to a certain level. And I've been really fortunate to have high-quality experience in my time, whether it be here at Georgia or Memphis or Alabama or some of the other places I've been able to visit. So and coach. So taking all that out there, I think will be really important. And then the biggest thing is just learning from that experience. Not any situation is the exact same, but recruiting ultimately at the end of the day comes down to work, and it's going to take work to get great players at Oregon, and we have the ability to get great players there, and great players should want to come there.
All right, and our final question for today will come from Lane Higgins. Lane?
Hey there, Coach. It seems like in the past few years, few people have been able to solve Alabama, and, LSU and Clemson have had their chances to get one over Alabama. But does it feel like there's almost this accumulated pressure on Georgia, given how many swings this team has had against Alabama in consequential games, and also just the added pressure that it's happening again in a national championship, and, there's that whole 41 years thing hanging over your head too?
Yeah, none of that's hanging over our head, Lane. At the end of the day, we want to go perform to the best of our ability. We want to execute at a really, really high level. But ultimately, it's not about them; it's about us. We want to go play our best game, and if we play our best game, we feel confident that that we can win that game. That being said, they're a really good team, and they deserve all the credit in the world for everything they've done over time. But so are we. So we expect a good game. We expect a tough challenge. But there's no more pressure outside the room than the pressure that we put on ourselves to perform at a high level. I know that. And I know how much our players care, how much our coaches care. So we got to have a great plan, and we got to go out there and execute. And I think we can do that.
Coach, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to seeing you in Indianapolis this weekend.